It helped us to identify what are called protective factors. And I want you to just notice how much this is the opposite of that original list, which are the risk factors, from an internal perspective. So not necessarily the external things. We're not talking about poverty, although certainly it's good if you don't grow up in poverty. We're not talking about addiction or abuse, although certainly it's good if you grow up and those are not things that you had to contend with in your earlier life. But that these become the greatest protective factors that you can have in terms of being able to have what's called an internal sense of resilience. What's resilience? Our capacity to be able to rise in the face of real challenges and difficulties, and even thrive in the face of them. So not just survive, but being able to actually move beyond surviving. Think of the number line, right? Not just get to a point of 0, but to be able to begin to move to the right side of that scale. And here are the things that we noted were the greatest protective factors. People who had not just connections with others, but a real sense that there were people that they could lean on or turn to in their world. So even if they weren't parent figures, the idea that there was a teacher or a pastor or a parent of a friend who was there for you, or a sibling, to know what your own personal strengths are and then how to be able to use those strengths to your greatest capacity. People who had a sense of meaning in their life. In other words, they weren't only reduced to whatever it was they were experiencing in the moment. And I'll give you an example of that from my own life. I really think that I could have, at a period of time, sort of collapsed under the pressure of things that were happening in 2010. Not only was I diagnosed and had a sudden cardiac arrest and was given a defibrillator, and that defibrillator went off, but I was diagnosed with breast cancer in the same year. Like, you got to be kidding, 9 months later. And then very, very sadly and very tragically, my mother died of a sudden cardiac event, all in the same year. This was in a 9-month period of time. But my sense of meaning was my sons, my children. I mean, I have a daughter too, but my 2 sons were genetically positive for the same exact disease that I had. And I thought I might be the only example they ever see of what it looks like to rise in the face of something that's difficult. And so this idea of a meaning beyond myself, spiritual grounding, which might be religious, but often is not as well, but this sense that there's something beyond yourself, that there might be some forces beyond yourself that can work in your favor. What's called a positive attribution style, the way that you tell the story to yourself, and an internal locus of control, which is whether or not you believe you can have any influence over the outcome of your life.